Hello everybody, it is I, Serbidian, back once more to welcome you aboard the Aurora C hype train. That's right, today is the 1st of March, and this month Aurora C will be released, apparently come hell or high water. So, what does that mean for you Aurora players out there? That means a lot of changes. A lot of changes. We're talking almost complete rewrites of most systems, a new language, faster speed and performance, all that good stuff. Every single day I am going to be releasing a new video covering some of the changes that you are going to see in the new version of Aurora. So let's begin. First and foremost, minor change. Underground infrastructure is replaced with low gravity infrastructure, or LG infrastructure. This will be built and transported in the same way as regular infrastructure, except it will be twice as expensive, 4 BP instead of 2 BP. Any low gravity bodies below the minimum gravity of the colonizing species will now have a normal colony cost calculation based on atmospheric temperature, pressure, etc., and an LG suffix will be added. For any bodies with an LG suffix, the maximum supported population will be based on the available LG infrastructure. For example, for a colony cost 2.0 world, you need 200 infrastructure per 1 million pop. For a colony of cost 2. LG world, you will need 200 LG infrastructure per 1 million pop, and normal infrastructure will have no effect. Both normal infrastructure and LG infrastructure can be used on a world with gravity in the tolerable range. Worlds with gravity above max species gravity will not be colonizable. Civilian infrastructure production on a low gravity world will be LG infrastructure produced at 1/3 of the normal rate, same overall cost. Trade in infrastructure will be low gravity to low gravity or acceptable gravity to acceptable gravity. Now, this is a minor change, but it is an improvement. In VB6, infrastructure only work on regular planets, but in order to colonize things like asteroids, so low gravity of bodies like asteroids, you had to manually build on site underground infrastructure, and then you could never move it again. It was more expensive. It required either shipping factories to a planet that has where infrastructure didn't work, or it required sending over construction brigades to build really expensive infrastructure that you could then no longer move. Since asteroids had almost no practical reason to colonize, and of course civilians would often throw millions and millions of population at it afterwards, it was just not viable. Having civilians construction be able to ship low gravity infrastructure as a trade good now means that throwing colonies on asteroids and making an asteroid dweller civilization is now entirely viable. Presumably, it also helps keep the code a little bit cleaner and easier for Steve. And that's a good thing. Next up, another minor change, naming themes. In VB6 Aurora, we have racial themes that include system names, class names, and rank names, plus a variety of ship name themes. For C# Aurora, they are all amalgamated into naming themes, which can be used individually for classes, systems, and ships. Ranks are apparently handled separately. A race will select a class naming theme, a system naming theme, and a rank theme, so you can use current ship name themes at the race level. And each ship class can also have a naming theme. The naming themes comprises everything previously used for ships, plus the existing racial themes separated out into the system and class elements, and named appropriately so you can replace existing race themes if desired. This should be a lot more flexible while allowing everything you can do now. It will also make it a lot easier for players to add customized themes. So this is going to be extremely handy for people who love role-playing, because it allows you to set these naming themes for basically everything, and you don't have very separate and distinct naming themes for commanders, ships, empires, colonies, etc., stuff like that. it makes the system a little bit neater and easier to use, I suppose. And also, it looks like it's not mentioned, but I believe Steve has mentioned that you can add themes a lot easier now as well. This may be mentioned later on, or he may mention it in passing. But yeah, you can add themes a lot easier, which means that it's a lot simpler to make your own empire the way you like it. Next, another minor change, repair tasks in shipyards window. When selecting the repair task in the shipyards window, only classes and ships actually needing repair and currently in orbit will be displayed. This makes things a lot easier because in VB6 you had to scroll through every single ship and class in orbit, whether it had any damage or not, and then figure out how much it was damaged. Now, VB6 does make it a little bit helpful in that when you select the ship, it will give you the repair cost, and undamaged ships have a repair cost of 0. But it's just a lot easier to just not have those undamaged ships displayed at all. Which means that the class of ship dropdown will be empty if all your ships are intact. Next up, we have changes in shipbuilding. We have 3 changes. Number 1, you can't refit a damaged ship. If PDCs were still a thing, this would be a problem, but they're not, so we'll cover that later. Number 2, scrapping and deleting is much more intelligent about moving commanders, teams, and ground units from a ship to the scrapping population, in case you accidentally scrap or delete a ship with them on board. Fuel maintenance and ordnance are also automatically unloaded. This is good because you don't get free maintenance from building ships anymore. And when a ship undergoes refit, fuel, maintenance, and ordnance are moved from or to the refitting population to account for the differences post-refit. So, minor changes overall, but still very, very useful ones. Not being able to use refit as a repair, for example. Not losing commanders, teams, ground units, fuel, maintenance, supplies, or ordnance because you accidentally forgot to offload additional stuff, or you're just scrapping a ship and you don't want to worry about, oh, do I still have ammunition aboard this ship? What's happening with the fuel? All that jazz. So makes scrapping, deleting, and refitting a lot simpler process for the player. Next up, we have changes to trade good modifiers. In VB6 Aurora, or civilian production of trade goods is affected by the population size, the race wealth creation date, the production rate of each specific trade good, and political status of the colony, and the wealth modifier of the planetary and sector governors. Whew, that's a lot of factors, but nothing unexpected. In C#, it will also be affected by radiation and unrest. So you can't leave your colonies with massive unrest and expect them to still produce trade goods for your civilian shipping. It also doesn't help getting nuked from orbit either. Next, reaction bonuses. A commander's initiative bonus has been replaced by a new reaction bonus. This serves 2 functions. Number 1, fleets, both players and NPRs, will move in ascending order of the average reaction bonus of the ship commanders in the fleet. Number 2, response time for orders when hostiles are present, which is based on fleet training, will be further reduced by the average reaction bonus of the ship commanders in the fleet. And number 3, any ship without a designated commander will be treated as if it had a commander with a 0% bonus. Now, the obvious change is different. It's a little bit easier to understand reaction bonus, and the fact that they are in ascending order makes things a little bit easier because they used to move in descending order and it was a little bit weird. So it's a little bit easier to understand what reaction bonus actually does. And having the fleet move, well, it's not that different from initiative, except that it's inverted and a little bit easier. However, there is a few little things that you might not notice. First of all, average reaction bonus of the ship commanders in the fleet. Now, that's important because now it means that you can't just have one really, really good guy in charge of one ship in the fleet and have him designate the initiative for the entire fleet. You have to have lots of really good commanders. And having a bunch of commanders with no initiative bonus, or in this case reaction bonus, is going to drag your reaction down. And also importantly, it means you're going to want to have commanders designated on ships, because even if you don't have enough commanders, it's still going to drag you down because they're going to be considered a 0% bonus. This also, interestingly enough, has a bit of a double-edged effect on having large fleets, right? If you only have 6 really brilliant commanders and the rest of them are all crap, you might not want a fleet that has more than 6 ships in it. You want 6 ships that have those commanders in them so that you can have the best possible reaction bonus. Packing it full of lots and lots of ships that have those terrible commanders is going to drag the entire fleet down. So it's splitting up fleets into smaller components. This is going to benefit that, which leads us into Naval Organization. Probably one of the most important, well, I don't know about most important, but one of the more valuable changes in C#. Instead of the task forces and task groups in VB6 Aurora, C# Aurora takes an approach similar to the optional functionality of the VB6 Naval Organization tab, albeit with a much easier and more flexible UI. There are 4 primary components of Naval Organization: admin commands, fleets, the VB6 task groups, subfleets, and ships. Every race starts with a single top-level admin command, which can't be deleted but can be renamed. All other admin commands descend in a tree from this one. You can only attach an admin command to another admin command, but you can have an unlimited number of levels in the admin command hierarchy. Fleets can only be attached to admin commands. Many fleets can be attached to the same admin command, but each fleet can only be attached to one admin command. So admin commands are basically going to be kind of like your kind of buckets that your fleets sit in. So they're basically organization units. Subfleets can only be attached to a fleet or to another subfleet. You can have an unlimited number of levels within subfleet hierarchy, and you organize the ships within the larger fleets. So again, they're basically task groups. Subfleets have no on-map function, and all ships within the subfleet hierarchy move within the parent fleet. You can detach a subfleet, at which point it becomes a full fleet in its own right. Any subfleets further down the subfleet hierarchy become subfleets of this new fleet. So subfleets are basically like squadrons within the fleet. They don't exist until you peel them off, but they exist to make peeling them off a little bit easier. So for example, you could have a handful of ships that you use as like a cavalry type unit that have a little bit stronger engines, that are a little bit faster, and you can split them off easily and have them sent out and do their tasks. A new join as subfleet order is available. When one fleet joins another using this order, its ships will automatically form a subfleet within the joined fleet, allowing them to subsequently detach as a whole unit. Which means that you no longer have to have ships join and then split them off individually once you need to separate them out. Makes your life when organizing raiding parties and stuff like that a lot easier. Very, very importantly, this is going to make surveying with carriers and other splitting groups like that a lot easier. If you have, for example, a jump tender and then survey ships that go with it, when you split the fleet in VB6, there's no guarantee that your tender is going to be the number 1 fleet. You could have the tender be in number 4 while all the other survey ships are in number 1 through whatever. This will solve that because you can set the tender as the main fleet and all the other survey ships as the sub-fleets. And the tender will always be the main fleet, and they will always be able to rejoin a lot easier. A ship can be attached to a fleet or to a subfleet. When attached to the subfleet, it is still a member of the parent fleet at the top of the subfleet hierarchy. The sidebar tree of the new Naval Organization window has full drag and drop functionality, so you can move admin commands, fleets, subfleets, and ships around as long as the above rules are followed. And that is where this change goes from great to incredible. The fact that you can drag and drop is just beautiful. You can also drag ships and subfleets between different fleets as long as they're in the same physical location. Entire sections of the tree can be moved with a single drag and drop, and also you can open up multiple fleet windows and drag and drop between the trees in 2 different windows. This is just absolutely fantastic. This is absolutely amazing. This is the change that Naval Organization needed. This is everything that was necessary to make this window a force for good instead of hair-tearing insanity. Well, that's it for today. Join me tomorrow where I will continue covering the changes for C# Aurora every day this month until launch, whenever that might be. Join me on the official Aurora Discord, Reddit, and the forums where you can join the discussion and the hype. Links down below in the video description. I am Sobedian, and I will see you next time.